Do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal.
Hello, welcome inside another edition. It is the Bmore Baseball Podcast. He's the former major leaguer, 14 years in the big league, also in the Orioles Hall of Fame. They didn't put me there. I'm just Jerry Coleman here to co-host this podcast. We're producing brand new content, Bordick, every day on our X page, our Instagram page, our Facebook page, and of course at YouTube. I have 2 Lido Pizza gift cards remaining. We have 3 episodes to go. You do the math. If you show us evidence you've subscribed to the podcast at Bmore Sports Pod, you get that $50 Lido Pizza gift card. Intern Grant will make sure you get it. All right, we've reached episode number 38. We're going to be joined shortly by Orioles broadcaster extraordinaire Brett Hollander. We'll also talk about how players occupy their time once the regular season is over. And speaking of players, we'll examine 2 moronic ones that have themselves in some hot water because they decided to deal with gamblers. And we'll catch up with Dr. Michael Jacobs and talk about how he handled the pitchers, the batters, the players, the managers, the executives, all during the steroid era. But let's bring in our featured guest. He is sponsored by Pappas Seafood. From crab cakes to seafood classics, they'll deliver straight to your door. 4 locations in the Baltimore area, plus nationwide shipping. Order today at pappascrabcakes.com. That's pappascrabcakes.com. And we say hello once again. It's been a while to Orioles announcer Brett Hollander. He joined us when Adam Jones was the co-host, but this is a new edition. And Brett, thanks for joining us. It just seems like, I don't know, the World Series ended yesterday, and I just saw that the spring training schedule is out. Pitchers and catchers are ready to report in February. I mean, how short is this offseason these days?
I'm not complaining. I think my wife and kids are ready to get me out of here come like January 2nd, I would say. By the way, thanks for having me on, guys. 2 of my favorite people right here. And Jerry, I'll wait for my Lido's gift card too. But I think it has gotten shorter and shorter. We have World Series dipping into November these days. And with the season starting March 26th and with the World Baseball Classic on in the 26th calendar, pitchers and catchers, I don't know the official report date, but it's not that far away. Probably right around Super Bowl time, pitchers and catchers will be reporting. And also it's weird. The calendar in sports we all grew up with has changed all around, and now the Super Bowl is almost at President's Day weekend.
Yeah.
Man, oh man. Yeah, it comes quick. Anyway, hey, thanks for coming on the show, Brett. Great to see you.
Bordick, it's great to see you.
Yeah, you too, man. Listen, I got to know. This was a tough season. It was a tough season for a fan. I've been in your seat. I've called some O's games before, and I've called rough games, man. Was this year as hard as any you've experienced calling games? Okay, that said, what about the highlights, though? There must have been a couple great highlights that stick out throughout the
I know
course.
it sounds kind of corny for me to say, but I can never complain about my job. And even as tough as April and May were, it's still, you're calling baseball games for a living. And I would say to our group, we cannot act like we're going to a funeral every day. No one wants to hear that because people are still using us as an escape. We call the game honestly. We talk about plays that aren't made and the issues with the club, although we're not really a talk show format, but no one wants to sound like we're in a morgue. It's baseball. It's the most fun thing in the world to me. So I think that's first thing. But, calling, and we did this together, Bordy, and you've called a lot of games and a lot of great seasons and a lot of average seasons and a lot of disappointing seasons. And I think that's kind of what you get over a long stretch in this business if you're fortunate enough to be a part of a broadcast group with the team. The COVID era during a rebuild was probably a lot tougher for a lot more reasons. The lack of access, you felt really disconnected with not only the aspect on the field, but just everything around you. And a lot of us weren't traveling during most of those COVID years. So that was much more difficult. Plus, you're going through a rebuild. And at that time in 2000 or in 2020, 2021, beginning of 22, no one knew there was an end in sight. So I think that was much more that hard, it was much more difficult in a variety of ways. And you knew you were watching players that wouldn't be necessarily a part of the next winning iteration. But there were still a lot of talented players that were there. But I think in sports, and we've all experienced this on both sides. People ask me my favorite Orioles teams of all time. I'll say in my lifetime, 1989, 2012, and the 22 Orioles, who did not make the postseason, nor the 89 team. But those teams came out of nowhere and had these wonderfully unexpected, great seasons, contending to the bitter end, and you saw the future ahead, and those were the best seasons. The worst seasons are when you have really high expectations and you underperform, and that's where the 2025 Orioles will land.
Yeah, and I'll declare the highlight of the year was September 6th, the Cal Ripken ceremony.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Dodgers were eventual world champions in town. Yamamoto, one strike away from a no-hitter, and Jackson Holiday breaks it up, and they come back to win. That was my highlight of the year.
That was the single game highlight. There was 2 great opening days, one in Toronto, one in Baltimore, where the Orioles played their 2 best games, at least offensively, it seemed, of the season. And then from a storyline perspective, and we can get into this, to me, the Trevor Rogers story was the best story of the year, maybe not just for the Orioles, but around baseball. When you take someone that was hanging on as a major leaguer by a thread, and you know that storyline, Bordy, where you have someone whose career is hanging on by a thread, and for him to come back and be maybe the best pitcher in baseball from right around June 1st on is an extraordinary development. And then in the backdrop of fans' justifiable concern and anger over the team on the field, and also the trade of Kyle Stowers and what he's doing in South Florida, and what your return was Trevor Rogers, who was really bad at the end of the 24 season when they were trying to win and contend. And then you're thinking, oh my goodness, here we go again with Trevor Rogers. And not only do you feel that that's a wonderful story, but you feel it's a huge piece going to next year.
No doubt about it, man. I mean, yeah, I love that. And you are exactly right. That is a beautiful story. And there's, something to look forward to this year. Well, something else to look forward to this year. How about the new manager that the Orioles just obtained, Albarnez? Listen, I know I'm from New England, but I don't have that New England accent. How's it going to be talking to that guy?
I think it's going to be interesting, Bordy. I think you somehow, when you went to the North Bay area, you lost your New England heritage, but and you lost your accent with it. He is a high energy guy, and I met him for 2 minutes, and I heard his press conference, and I've heard some interviews. That's pretty much all I know. I think it says a lot when you have someone like Stephen Vogt show up in Baltimore for his mentee's press conference, so to speak. He's one of those rare people that had his pick of the litter when it comes to jobs for the last 2 off seasons. You never see that. No one turns down head coaching jobs in football or managerial jobs in baseball, but he was one of those hot assistant coach candidates where people in the industry just loved him and wanted him, and he impressed a lot of people. You meet him for 2 minutes, he's a high energy guy with a really good vibe about him. As far as what I know baseball strategy and philosophy wise, I know very little, other than it's clear his goal is to mesh with people and connect with people and communicate with people. And I think it's very hard to do, and it's probably true in every generation of baseball. But as younger players keep coming up through the system, and we all know the world around us is changing dramatically, I think it gets harder and harder to communicate with players and try and meet them where they are. And that seems to be his special sauce. And I think, you got to bring in people who can coach the basics, Bordy, as you know, and you got to teach situational hitting, and you got to teach fielding and base running, all those fundamentals of the game that really separate you over the course of 6 months and in the postseason, most of all. But I think a lot of managers know pitching strategy, and everyone sees the same data points on going to the bullpen or not going to the bullpen, who you're supposed to bring in. But I think trying to maximize 26 players who all want to be great and want to become millionaires and multi-millionaires, that is the tough part of the job in the modern world.
I see a lot of similarities between him and the former manager, Brandon Hyde. How did they differ? I mean, they were both former catchers, had outstanding backgrounds and resumes before they arrived here in Baltimore.
Yeah, I think Brandon did a great job, and I'll say that forever. And it ended terribly in how it kind of collapsed in 25. And we all know how this thing works when you have high expectations and you underperform. That's the way it goes. It's not fair, but the old adage has never been more true. You can't fire all the players. It's just not the way the system works. But what Brandon got out of those teams in 20 and 21 and 22, which I thought was one of the more spectacular managerial jobs I've ever seen, with that group to overperform the way they did with that talent level in that division and winning 83 games and just missing the plus. And then I know everyone thinks about what you do in the postseason, whether it's the NFL or Major League Baseball. I'm sorry, you win 101 games in the American League East and you win 18 more games to the New York Yankees, you're doing a lot right. And don't forget the next year with all the injuries, winning 91 games. So it stinks how it ended. But I do think, Jerry, you're right. When you look at kind of pedigree and you look at age when hired, very similar to Brandon Hyde. I think a lot of similarities to Tony Mansolino and what he brought to the table last year, and energy-wise especially. And I know the players like Tony a lot, and I actually thought he really was able to right the ship in very difficult circumstances, replacing a guy who had a lot of success and in the modern world actually had, in 7 years or so, longevity. Very few managers last 7 years nowadays. So I thought Tony did a heck of a job. But I think right now they feel to take the next step to maximize this core young group, which we have talked about for years now. They feel that Craig Alvarez is the guy to make this group take the next step.
More of the Bmore Baseball podcast coming right up. At Pappas Restaurants, we've been serving up Maryland's best crab cakes for over 5 decades, and now we make it easier than ever to get your favorites. With 4 restaurants and sports bar locations across Harford County, Baltimore County, and Anne Arundel County, you can stop in for fresh seafood, ice-cold drinks, and wall-to-wall TVs. But if you can't make it in, don't worry. We'll bring Pappas to you. Our new state-of-the-art shipping and commissary location on Bel Air Road in Nottingham means you can pick up fresh-made meals or have our famous crab cakes and seafood shipped anywhere in the country. Dine in, pick up, or ship nationwide. However you Pappas, we've got you covered. Order now at pappascrabcakes.com. Shop Maryland's largest adult use and medical cannabis menu located at 1114 Cathedral Street in Baltimore, with medical delivery available throughout Maryland 7 days a week. Only at Relief Shop.
I'm retired now, but I was an Orioles home run. Grand slam, actually. Took a sweet ride right into the flag court, and it was awesome. Could be awesome for you, too. If you play Home Run Riches from the Maryland Lottery, you could win instantly, or be a contestant of the game and win $500 for being selected, $500 for every Orioles home run, and $5,000 for every Grand Slam. Sounds like a ball, if you ask me. Enter all season at mdlottery.com.
In a city where passion runs deep, on the stage and on the field, Baltimore knows how to bring the heat. Whether it's a game-winning home run or a breathtaking violin solo, this town plays to win. The Baltimore Chamber Orchestra champions the creative soul of our city with bold performances of classically captivating music. Join the team that brings precision, power, and heart to every performance. Learn more and get your season tickets now at thebco.org.
Well, that's pretty exciting. I know we have a couple guys that obviously Gunnar, I think is the key. Are there other young players that you think need to really step up this year and might benefit from Alvarez as the manager?
Well, I think for the Orioles to get to where they're trying to go, Bordy, they all kind of have to. And maybe that runs together. And I saw a lot of press. I saw a lot of guys who had not dealt with failure before. And I see someone like Henderson who just puts so much pressure on himself to be great every day, which is on the surface exactly what you want. But as Buck Showalter used to say, you can want something too much. And I think there's a lot of truth in that when you watch this group. But, Cowser was hurt, I think, for much of the second half. Obviously, the strikeouts need to come down. The contact needs to go up. Henderson home run numbers were way, 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 way down. I think Jackson Holliday has another gear. And I think Adley Rutschman, we want to see him return to the player he was in 22, 23 in the first part of 24. All these things are possible. If you get 3 of those things, I think you're probably in really good shape. All of them are possible. They're all super talented. They should be hitting their prime seasons. As we look at this offseason, guys, and I know you guys hear the same thing around town, everyone is saying pitching. That could be said for all 30 clubs every day of the week, 12 months a year. We all know that. This team needs a closer. They need a setup man. They need several starters. But I actually, right now, if you had to roll it out with Rogers and Bradish and Kramer, that's really not a bad place to start. I mean, that's pretty good compared to most clubs. I think this rotation is going to be really good. Of course, always with the caveat of health. But I really think this lineup needs something. It has been a year and a half of struggles, and there is a lot of talent there. Now, just because you had a good rookie year or a good second year, nothing's guaranteed in the sport, Bordy. You know that. How many guys have we seen get off to great starts in their career and then come down, and then the other way around, guys who get off to a slow start, and it feels like they're lost, and then have, after maybe 3 or 4 seasons, resurgence in their career. But there's something about a big bopper in the middle of this order, preferably from the right side, that I just think would take so much heat off these young core players. And someone also ideally who is great in the clubhouse and, is still chasing a ring and checks a lot of those boxes. I'm not saying it has to be someone who hits 40 home runs. I don't know if there's like a magic number to it, but someone who is feared, who can take some pressure off these young hitters, preferably, at least as the team is constituted now, from the right side. Now, if you get in a big bopper from the left side, maybe that precipitates other trades down the line where you're bringing in something else like pitching or starters or relievers. But I really think, it's the old adage, when you draft a young star quarterback, the first thing you do is go get a left tackle. You need to protect that guy. And then eventually you want to get a running back to take pressure off and a wide receiver to stretch the field. I feel the same way about this young core group of Orioles. You got to protect them somehow.
They definitely need to make some sort of splash to reinvigorate this fan base because, changing the stadium, bringing in a new manager, I don't know how many extra tickets that's going to sell. I think they want to see some new faces and some money spent. Easier said than done, but I think that's what Birdland is anticipating after hearing the press conference with Rubenstein, Elias, and Alvarez.
I expect them to be busy. It's not all going to be free agents. It's going to be the trade market as well, and they could acquire players in a lot of different ways. I'm not sure if it's a great free agent class. It might be an interesting one, a good one.
I think it's mediocre, yeah.
And the reality is, Jerry, you're going to have to make those moves that people, me included, are so dismissive of. You are not going to win with the 26 guys you look at on March 1st or April 1st and say, that's my World Series team. To get there, there has to be a Trevor Rogers story. There has to be something beyond Trevor Rogers, whether that's Jeremiah Jackson or someone off the scrap heap. No one, and this includes the Yankees, Red Sox, Dodgers, is winning with just those big, high-priced guys. You got to get lucky, too. And there is something to be said about the teams that can find those diamonds in the rough, whether it's a minor league contract and you're storing someone in AAA for the first half of the year waiting for his turn, or someone who is getting a chance in spring training to earn a roster spot. Maybe you think he's a 26 guy, but no one is staying healthy all year long. And it's those moves, not necessarily just Kyle Tucker and Pete Alonso and whomever else might be available, that often make the difference through the course of the long baseball marathon.
Man, I agree totally. Yeah, they need though. I mean, look at the Blue Jays. I mean, Trey Savage, are you kidding me? The guy was in single A and he comes up and becomes a World Series, star. So yeah, the Orioles need those kind of diamonds in the rough, for sure. So yeah, pretty exciting stuff right there. I guess I lost my train of thought, but I was going to say something about there you go.
Well, I'll just take over from there because the winter meetings are going on at this juncture. And I know Oriole fans are waiting for something to be done right away. But you look back at last year, Juan Soto didn't sign that massive deal until around Christmas time, Brett.
It changes every offseason, the market. A lot of dollars are going to be spent. There's no question about it. I think depending on how that first big free agent domino goes, that will start the trade market, or one might start first and that will precipitate the other. Some teams like to make an early strike, but just remember, Corbin Burns was right before spring training a few years ago. It's different every year. I think a lot of it depends on when that first big free agent signs, or someone has to get the ball rolling, and that's usually how it goes. Scott Boras likes to play the waiting game. He has a few of these big names out there. He will not rush into anything. It's interesting with the big offensive players. I could pick them apart all day. I mean, that's the reality. They're all flawed, and they're all a huge risk. Alonso's not considered a great defender. He probably will not age well. He will probably be a designated hitter in a couple of years, maybe even. But obviously, you look at the power from the right side and his postseason experience, and you're saying, wow, that guy checks a ton of boxes. Schwarber's already a DH. So if you get him, does that leave Rutschman and Basayo? I think that changes things a little bit. So all these moves could force several other moves. What the Orioles do with Kobe Mayo at first base. Kyle Tucker, he had a horrible second half of the season. This guy's going to get $400 million. And a lot of people believe he was hurt. I want to know why he was not average, not bad, horrible in the second half of the season. Is Kyle Tucker really good? Yeah. Is his swing perfect for Camden Yards? Yeah. But every one of these guys, there's no perfect person out there where like, here's a blank check. This includes Juan Soto, in my opinion. They're all flawed in different degrees. That the pitchers, that if you were to go that route in free agency, have just enormous risks attached to them. I love how Dylan Cease makes every start in the last several years, even though his ERA and his walk numbers are probably too high for someone who might make $150, $200 million. So All of them have some level of risk. You have to believe in your coaches. You have to believe in your front office and your scouting to make these moves. And you also have to be right how they fit in culturally. The Orioles, and I know some fans don't want to hear it, they can't be wrong. Okay? They can't be wrong. The Yankees can occasionally be wrong. The Dodgers can occasionally be wrong. The Orioles cannot have another Chris Davis situation. It will hurt you for years and years and years to come. So if you bet, you got to be right.
Well, O'Neill's kind of in that category right now. And have the Orioles positioned themselves enough to be able to trade some of the young guys they stockpiled at the trade deadline, and even some of the players you already mentioned, like a Mayo?
Sure. I think so. I think, you really have to. I think the hardest thing to do in pro sports sometimes, Bordy, is determine what you have yourself. Do you have, with Kobe Mayo, a middle-of-the-order bat for years to come? Do you have a really good everyday player? Or do you have someone who it's really a gamble at best, but you see the risk reward, high upside, but what's the low level there? And I think that is one of the hardest things to do in pro sports. I've talked to so many fans this offseason. So many have said if they trade away any of these young players, they're fools. If they hold on to any of these young players, they are also fools. So I don't have the right answer.
Right.
I also believe in something called you can make a trade and it can work out well for both clubs. The Orioles traded away some interesting players, and Joey Ortiz, part of a good Milwaukee team. I don't know if he's an everyday star, but he's certainly a major leaguer. DL Hall can't stay healthy. I get what Milwaukee was doing. I get what the Orioles were doing for Coleman Burns. You can both be right. It's not going to be probably the two players the Orioles traded to the Twins for J.J. Hardy. Those are rare trades, or what the Orioles got for Eric Bedard and Adam Jones and Chris Tillman and George Sherrill. Those are rare. To get something, you have to give up something. The question is, what are you willing to give up? And, a lot of names are going to be floated around this offseason. There's no question about it, because you're not going to buy $200 million worth of players. You're going to have to make some trades. And to get a good player, you're going to have to give up something you like.
Brett, appreciate your time as always. Listen, off-season, Brett, the time is getting shorter and shorter.
It is.
In terms of making
Happy Thanksgiving, guys.
Yeah, doing interviews and celebrating holidays. So enjoy the off time with the family while you have it.
Yeah.
Will do, boys. Happy
Thanks.
Thanksgiving.
Thanks, Brett. You too.
Thank you, Brett. Always great catching up with Brett. All right, let's move along. Time now for the Birds, as always, sponsored by the Maryland Lottery. Bordy, playing the Maryland Lottery responsibly means knowing what's true and what's not about your favorite games. Learn the facts and myths by going to mdlottery.com. That's mdlottery.com. And as always, please play responsibly. So, Bordy, I'm curious. We've reached the off season now. You had many of off seasons. How do players spend their time these days? I mean, back in the day when you got 4 months off and got to go around the world on a cruise, it's not like that anymore for these guys. They seem like they have to get back to work. Of course, I'm being sarcastic, but what is the routine once your season ends?
Yeah. I was one of those old time players that would show up in spring training and we'd leapfrog each other to try to get in shape for the regular season. No, even back when I played, man, the regular season started really the next day, especially for players like me that were never secure about their job. You jump right back into getting stronger, faster, jump higher, all that great athletic stuff. I think nowadays, even more importantly, just because the tools are there to make themselves as good as they can be. I think they have great understanding now of nutrition. So these guys are going to be eating better in the off season. I think they understand recovery much better. And I really do think there's a handful of guys that probably start their training right when the season is done, just so they are ready to go in spring training. There's going to be a handful of guys who might travel the world still, and who knows, maybe even not work as hard. That's happened too, but I guarantee you, for what's at stake now for a lot of these players, this is a full-time job, taking care of yourself and being a year-round, well-rounded athlete.
Yeah, and how has the routine been altered? Because I can tell you, once you step into the clubhouse doors at spring training, if you're not in shape, that'll be the first thing the manager and the coaching staff notices.
No doubt about it. So this is the deal. At the end of a season, if you've been healthy, you'll have an outgoing meeting with the manager, the trainers, the strength and conditioning coaches as well, and you'll talk about your strengths and weaknesses and things that you need to work on. And if it's a skill, as far as lateral movement and things like that, you work on that with plyometrics, explosive moves and things like that. They'll have programs for that. Most generally, after the course of a 162 game season, most players lose their overall strength. So that's it, man. They are trying to recover and add strength and explosiveness. And that's really the whole, purpose, I think, to the off season. You have to be smart about it too, because you don't want to come into spring training and all of a sudden ramp it up and get hurt. You see so many injuries in spring because of that. They've never had spikes in the dirt. So there is a process for the off season about understanding recovery, building strength up. So when spring training comes, you're not going to have that overwhelming soreness and potential for injury.
And one thing we discussed with our guest earlier, Brett Hollander, is how short the offseason has become. I mean, the World Series just concluded, as we mentioned, almost time to ramp it back up in early February, late March. They're playing regular season games. And not to mention, you got the World Baseball Classic mixed in there.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'll tell you what, if you're one of those fortunate teams to get to go to the postseason, and like the Dodgers have an extended postseason into the World Series, it seems like, every year now, their offseason is definitely shorter. Some of these players, for instance, the Orioles, I know this is a young, hungry group of guys. I think they feel like they have an advantage now because they were able to train for 3 weeks while everybody else was out playing baseball. They're trying to make themselves stronger and a little bit better here in the off season. So some of these guys might, mentally feel like they have an advantage right now. And I kind of think that's the mindset that a lot of these teams have to have going into the off season, especially a team like the Orioles.
And how about the impact of the World Baseball Classic? Are you still a fan of this event? I feel like it's sort of worn out its welcome and interrupts spring training.
Well, it does interrupt spring training, but listen, Major League Baseball is now a global sport. I mean, look what Shohei Ohtani has done. Japanese baseball, really, the whole world is involved with Major League Baseball right now. And I think Major League Baseball, one of the best things they could have done was start this World Baseball Classic and inspire more interest, I think, globally. This is trying to promote this great game that we have and just try to make it more commonplace around the world. I think it's a really good thing. I think players love representing their country. Listen, it's every 4 years, so we could suck it up for a little bit, can't we?
Yeah, we can. I like to complain about almost everything and anything. So I was just on my list today. It's like, I'm waiting for the U.S. to win more of these events. Maybe that's my bias.
Well, exactly. And I think that's a great argument to inspire kids here in the United States to become better baseball players, because now the challenge is this international market. I mean, you got a lot of competition now.
It's saving season at Lido Pizza. 99-cent refreshing iced teas for spring and summer, or $6 calzones every Tuesday. There are tons of new deals and rewards for everyone, exclusively at LidoPizza.com or on the Lido Pizza app. Lido Pizza, a local legend since 1955, proud partner of the Baltimore Orioles. For years, we were told to say no, but Verano is rewriting that story with award-winning flower, vapes, edibles, concentrates, and topicals for every kind of vibe. Shop smart with Savvy, treat yourself with Encore chocolates, relax with an Avexia bath soak, or keep it light with Bits gummies. Want something premium? Grab Essence pre-rolls or a Reserve 8th. Verano makes premium cannabis for all. Find out for yourself. Head to one of our original sponsors, Relief Shop in Baltimore on Cathedral Avenue, and mention Bmore Verano for an exclusive deal. That's Bmore Verano. This ad and products are intended for legal consumers 21 and over. Everyone knows Greenmount Station in Hampstead, but did you know that at Greenmount Station you can bet 7 days a week just like you're at the track? With in-person teller windows and state-of-the-art touchscreen kiosks. And with Greenmount Station's brand new Bet Park Sportsbook, you can bet on all other sports as well, wherever you are in Maryland. Spreads, money lines, live bets, props, parlays, and teasers. The Bet Parks Maryland mobile app is now live for Apple and Android devices, so you'll never miss your next big score. Just search for BetParks MD in the Apple App Store or on Google Play. 21 and over only. Please play responsibly. For help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Effective Solutions, your one-stop shop for commercial contracting. Everything from excavation and site development to emergency remediation and restoration. Effective Solutions specializes in many forms of commercial and mixed-use construction. With a dedicated staff and a commitment to quality, Effective Solutions delivers every time.
All right, let's head beyond Baltimore. Brought to you by Relief Shop, Baltimore's best adult use and medical cannabis dispensary with 700 plus unique menu items, and home delivery is always available for medical patients, courtesy of Relief Shop. They're right there in the heart of the city on Cathedral Street. All right, Mike, I did want to address this latest Major League Baseball gambling scandal. The NBA has some company. It's not good. These dopes, Emmanuel Clase and Luis Ortiz, intentionally throwing pitches for balls, knowing that there was money riding on these pitches. This occurred back in 2023 and then again last year in 2025. I mean, there are reports that these guys were making anywhere between $12,000, as much as $50,000 from the help they were providing these gamblers for what is essentially throwaway pitches. They also could end up facing 65 years each behind bars in prison, which does not surprise me because the feds are looking to send a message here. But Clase signed a 5-year deal and has already earned more than $20 million. I don't understand why you would risk that for, in the neighborhood of $15,000 to $50,000 to help out a friend or family member.
Well, there you go. I mean, it's to help out friends and family. Listen, I think every player feels blessed they have an opportunity to make money and play at the highest level of baseball. And nowadays, guys are getting paid, an extreme amount of money, that's for sure. But you can't help everybody. And I think sometimes guys are looking for ways to help maybe their second cousin. I don't know. And I'm not in their shoes. There's an enticement to it. We all knew it going in, man. When gambling got involved with sport, and all of a sudden took over as now part of one of their major sponsors and really drive sport, there was going to be a problem. And it just didn't take as long as we thought for it to rear its ugly head in our pastime. And I'll tell you this, Jerry, I think the concern is, there's a concern at the highest level for sure, but what about college sports? I mean, the impact gambling has on college sports and the accessibility of young players and young gamblers in college to have an impact on games. I mean, I think we're scratching the surface on what could potentially be going on in gambling right now. And I'm glad Major League Baseball is involved. And I think, and that gambling is really kind of trying to right the ship, right? They're limiting the bets right now. They're trying to do everything they can to make it, part of the entertainment package. But man, oh man, if us fans are being jilted by players out on the sports field, not good for anything. Not good for the sport, not good for gambling, that's for sure.
Now, that will destroy the credibility of the sport. As far as the gambling aspect goes, again, these guys are moronic. Did they not think that the sports books would notice that someone was betting on whether or not they threw a ball or a strike? These are random players, with all due respect, and people are putting thousands of dollars on whether or not the first pitch was going to be a ball or a strike. Gambling facilities, casinos, sports books, they notice these trends way ahead of baseball, and they notify baseball about this. And now, this, I think, is why they have the regulations in place and why they decided that we don't need to put prop bets on whether the first pitch is going to be a strike or a ball. And we don't need to have prop bets for college players, random players, even in the NFL and NBA, lower level players. We don't need these type of prop bets. Just leave it for the star players if you're going to go that route.
No, I agree totally. And that's the adjustment I think that they've made. And, hopefully other sports take note of that. There's just too much control. Everybody's got a dark side to them, and money is the root of all evil. We all know that. And it rears its ugly head, unfortunately, time and time again.
Yeah, Clase was so stupid. He was texting these bettors during the baseball game to let them know what was going on. Like, no one was going to find that out. Now, I'm not saying that Stephen Vogt or even Craig Albernaz were involved, but man, I would have liked to have asked him about it when they were in town last week. And that's something to ask Albernaz going forward, because he was around during this period of time.
Well, no doubt about it. I mean, yeah, nowadays with all the technology and advancements that has been thrust into Major League Baseball, they got laptops in the dugout. I mean, it's all right there. I mean, so you knew it was going to be a risky, endeavor, and they take their chance at it. But there again, you're dealing with human beings, and when there are opportunities to, I know we say help, but for people to show how how crazy they can be, I mean, they're going to try to take advantage of it. And this is what happened here. Hopefully players know now not to even take a chance. I talked to an NFL referee, and they really monitor those guys incredibly. Like when they are in a stadium, wherever they go, they're really monitored and understand the importance of this to keep the integrity of the game. They don't need any kind of backlash like that in their sport. And Major League Baseball doesn't either. That's why I'm really glad that Major League Baseball is stepping up. And these guys are, being upfront. And unfortunately, I think Class A and Ortiz are going to be, really used as examples. I don't want them to go to jail for 65 years. But man, oh man, they can at least go out and do some community service work and explain, how bad this is for the game and the opportunities they've been given and how they unfortunately took advantage of.
Yeah, the Feds have an awfully good one-loss record when it comes to these type of cases. They win a whole lot more than they lose. So it doesn't look good for those two former Guardians and probably former major leaguers. All right, let's bring in a guy who doesn't gamble, at least to my knowledge. If he does, it's behind the scenes, but I doubt he does. It's former Orioles team doctor Michael Jacobs, joining us from glorious Sarasota, Florida, where he let me stay for one whole night. Doc, first thing, is the place still look the same after I left? I need to know that. You haven't clarified that.
Everything's great, but the TV doesn't work. So I'm not sure why.
Let me just say that. The TV didn't work when I was down there, okay?
Unlikely story. What do you think, Bordick?
I don't know about that.
I had to interject one other thing. Not to get off track. You got about 78 remotes, okay? So I wasn't sure which one to use.
There you go.
I think there was too much pornography going on there, Mike.
I
think that was the problem.
Thank God
you burned out my TV, okay?
Thank God my computer was working that night, but we can get that fixed another time when I come back and stay. Doc, let's go back in time to when you were the Orioles team doctor. Can you talk about the difficulties you endured in handling the medical care during what was known as the steroid era?
Well, it was early in my career, and in 93, 94, we also had to deal with the strike. So that was a very strange year. And it really was bizarre because it was like the elephant in the room nobody could talk about. And everybody knew what was going on. I mean, players, skinny little infielders were disappearing for the offseason and coming back, looking like anatomy maps. Second basemen were suddenly hitting 40 home runs. And you would openly hear, without even trying, coaches and front office people saying, oh, well, he's on steroids now. It was so matter of fact, it was bizarre. And because the front offices and the owners were so afraid of the players union at that point in time, and because the players union, to me, was still basking in their overwhelming power, they refused to even consider testing. And Mike must remember that. And you look at Mike, or you look at BJ, or you looked at Junior, and they clearly weren't doing stuff. And I got to wonder how guys like you, who are looking at players clearly who are tripling in size, how you'd wanted to deal with that, because it's like I think those players almost didn't want to speak out about it. And I can't tell you how many players would basically give you the same line of indirectly saying, if everybody's doing it, I got to do it to keep up. And some of the players, some of their lab work went off the wall because it can affect your cholesterol and other things. And I've had more than one player say, Doc, I got a short lifespan in this game. I'll do whatever it takes to keep playing.
What did you tell him? What did you tell him in response to that?
We said, this is not in your health's best interest. And their answer would be, Doc, it's my decision. We appreciate your thoughts, but it's my decision. And we never actually said it's from PEDs, but everything was inferred and understood. And I remember a pitcher who had had a couple of really down years, and I thought was going to get run out of baseball. As a former high draft pick, and I actually a former top 5 pick, and he blew us off the chart, throwing like 95. And I remember hearing the coaches mutter, "Christ, I hear that guy's on steroids now. That's why he's thrown so hard." And it was just a given. And Mike, you'll love this. I mean, we were trading for players, and I said, "Who'd we trade for?" They said, "Oh, we traded for the juice." I mean, players' nicknames were the juice, and I remember the first, we don't want to use too many names, but some are just so blatant. I remember when Julio Franco came up. He was a skinny little kid from the DR. He was with the Phillies. He was a multi-talented infielder. And he walked into our weight room, and he was bigger than Canseco. He didn't have a neck. And he ended up playing to 45. And he became a power hitter, didn't he, Mike? I mean, he pretty much became a drive hitter. And
he never got caught, though, did he?
There wasn't testing then. It was the players union ruled all, and whoever, you would know better than I, whoever ran the players union and whoever had agents who were pushing them basically said, mind your own business. We can do whatever we want. And of course, the Sosa McGuire home run thing created excitement. We were post a strike where people lost interest, so nobody wanted to rock the boat. And then, of course, testing came in, and it was like the incredible shrinking man at spring training. I mean, we're looking at people and going, "Holy cow, is that what's his name?" And they just melted away, And Doc and I would laugh, and players were just melting away. And then I think it became a level playing field. But I have to ask Mike, how did you guys who didn't do anything, how could you not say this isn't fair? We don't want to do that to our bodies. What did they say to you? Don't do it?
Well, there was never a confrontation with players face to face. I think there were some players that were outspoken against steroids and said that it was unfair in the game, but I just let players do what they wanted to do. I mean, the way I looked at it, it was one of those kind of moral and ethical type of things, and I didn't want to hurt my body that way. Some of the players, Doc, and this is kind of the question, I think initially guys did it for their health, to stay healthy in the game so that they could keep being on the field, because as well as I do, the game just beats you up. And when you're going through those ups and downs and trying to recover, and of course, amphetamines were in the game too. And when you're doing that up and down stuff, your body goes through so much. So when steroids came onto the scene, it was just a way to stay healthier longer. And a lot of players did that. Now, there were ego things in there too. They looked better in their jersey. Their muscles were big and they looked good. And then, of course, the home run became popular again. So it was all just this mess, this collective mess that pushed through the 90s where, chicks dig the long ball. Everybody looks good in their uniform. They're healthier and on the field. But then after a number of years, the injuries started showing up. The effects of the steroids on ligaments and the muscles being too big. Am I right there, Doc, with all of a sudden injuries?
Well, you're exactly right. It doesn't work for everybody. I mean, the one player we had, who again was one of these rookie of the year infielders we got as a speed guy who couldn't walk. He was so big, and every time the guy sneezed, he pulled a muscle. And I mean, I remember saying to the front office, I said, I can't keep this guy on the field. And they go, well, the manager thought he would give us some extra speed, but he was so overbulked up he couldn't play. Then, of course, you look at Canseco, who openly admitted he took stuff, and he looked terrific. And then, as I said to you once before, when Canseco and McGuire came to our weight room before we had 2 weight rooms, Canseco looked like a Greek god, and McGuire had acne. His hair was falling out. Even though he was cracking the ball, he had all the side effects, so everybody's physiology is different. One guy doesn't seem to manifest much of a negative, and the other guy, while he's getting more power, clearly has, he looks like he's 80. Not that he can't hit. So everybody's different, but I got to think you would resent it if you see, I remember the second baseman from Atlanta, he's playing in the launching dome, the launch pad down there in Atlanta at Fulton County Stadium, and suddenly he's hitting 45 home runs. And, you add that stadium to a little extra muscle. I got to think something's weird down there, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, not many second basemen have 45 home runs.
Doc, appreciate the input. We got to run. We're out of time, but that was fascinating. And you can name the names after we're done with the podcast. We do want to thank our sponsors, those that have been with us from day one. We appreciate your loyalty, and also the newcomers like Verano.
At Pappas Restaurants, we've been serving up Maryland's best crab cakes for over 5 decades, and now we make it easier than ever to get your favorites. With 4 restaurants and sports bar locations across Harford County, Baltimore County, and Anne Arundel County, you can stop in for fresh seafood, ice-cold drinks, and wall-to-wall TVs. But if you can't make it in, don't worry. We'll bring Pappas to you. Our new state-of-the-art shipping and commissary location on Bel Air Road in Nottingham means you can pick up fresh-made meals or have our famous crab cakes and seafood shipped anywhere in the country. Dine in, pick up, or ship nationwide. However you Pappas, we've got you covered. Order now at pappascrabcakes.com. For years, we were told to say no, but Verano is rewriting that story with award-winning flour, vapes, edibles, concentrates, and topicals for every kind of vibe. Shop smart with Savvy. Treat yourself with Encore chocolates. Relax with an Avexia bath soak. Or keep it light with Bits gummies. Want something premium? Grab Essence pre-rolls or a Reserve 8th. Verano makes premium cannabis for all. Find out for yourself. Head to one of our original sponsors, Relief Shop in Baltimore on Cathedral Avenue, and mention Bmore Verano for an exclusive deal. That's Bmore Verano. This ad and products are intended for legal consumers 21 and over.
I'm retired now, but I was an Orioles home run. Grand slam, actually. Took a sweet ride right into the flag court, and it was awesome. Could be awesome for you, too. If you play Home Run Riches from the Maryland Lottery, you could win instantly or be a contestant of the game and win $500 for being selected, $500 for every Orioles home run, and $5,000 for every Grand Slam. Sounds like a ball if you ask me. Enter all season at mdlottery.com.
It's saving season at Lido Pizza. 99-cent refreshing iced teas for spring and summer. Or $6 calzones every Tuesday. There are tons of new deals and rewards for everyone. Exclusively at LidoPizza.com or on the Lido Pizza app. Lido Pizza, a local legend since 1955. Proud partner of the Baltimore Orioles.
In a city where passion runs deep, on the stage and on the field, Baltimore knows how to bring the heat. Whether it's a game-winning home run or a breathtaking violin solo, this town plays to win. The Baltimore Chamber Orchestra champions the creative soul of our city with bold performances of classically captivating music. Join the team that brings precision, power, and heart to every performance. Learn more and get your season tickets now at thebco.org.
Everyone knows Greenmount Station in Hampstead, but did you know that at Greenmount Station you can bet 7 days a week just like you're at the track? With in-person teller windows and state-of-the-art touchscreen kiosks. And with Greenmount Station's brand new Bet Park Sportsbook, you can bet on all other sports as well, wherever you are in Maryland. Spreads, money lines, live bets, props, parlays, and teasers. The Bet Parks Maryland mobile app is now live for Apple and Android devices, so you'll never miss your next big score. Just search for Bet Parks MD in the Apple App Store or on Google Play. 21 and over only. Please play responsibly. For help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Shop Maryland's largest adult use and medical cannabis menu located at 1114 Cathedral Street in Baltimore, with medical delivery available throughout Maryland 7 days a week. Only at Relief Shop. Effective Solutions, your one-stop shop for commercial contracting. Everything from excavation and site development to emergency remediation and restoration. Effective Solutions specializes in many forms of commercial and mixed-use construction. With a dedicated staff and a commitment to quality, Effective Solutions delivers every time.
Also want to thank Senior Executive Intern Grant DeVivo for putting this latest episode together. Until next time, be real, be kind, and make sure to be back next week. It's another episode, and we got a big guest here on the Bmore Baseball Podcast.
Do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal.